Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Understanding, that one should have an understanding. Otherwise, how can you expect to reach your destination? And communally speaking, worldwide, there are certainly many devotees who only have the most general idea of what the highest goal of life is, Prema Pumartha Mahan. That love for God is the highest goal that one can achieve in life. Generally, the mass of population will tell us money is the goal. Because if we have money, we can have everything. But those who have money, lots of money, they will tell you power. Power is the goal. But those who have great power show us that love is the be-all and end-all of life. Even the great military commanders of the world, they go home to a family in the evening, to the home love of their wife and their children. Affection is higher than even power. So, in this world, all individuals are limited, however beautiful, however charming, however sweet they may be. So, if love with any individual of this world, be it one's lover, one's family, or what have you, if that is so much superior to even power, great strength, then what must be the position of love with that supreme individual, supreme personality of Godhead? A love affair with Him, love of God, is the super end of life, the super goal of life. But generally people are not analytical in what they do. They are simply absorbed in what they do. So, devotees are no exception. Sometimes devotees just get absorbed in what they do. They get absorbed in their service, and they're a little bit mindless about the goal. And sometimes it appears that they may not even know what the goal of life is, what the goal of the whole thing is, or very much even about the process. So a doubt arises that, well, if you don't know these things, then how you can expect to achieve the end result. So in the contemporary Vaishnavism, there's somewhat of a controversy over this. You must know the goal of life. You must know very much how to approach that goal of life. Very much detail, I'm telling you. You must know very much detail about that higher goal of life. How you attain that. Then others are saying, no, only automatically it will come. Only we have to go on with the practice, and then automatically it will come. So in this controversy, actually both parties are right. Even without any knowledge of the ultimate goal of life, if somehow one is drawn into the right circumstances, the right practice, and all these things, one will progress towards the goal of life. And a very good example of this is this, what's his name? I think, is it Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana initially. He was not a devotee. In fact, I might be confusing the stories now, but he was just the opposite. Or, no, I'll give you a better idea. Yes. Oh, yes. Well, he's one type of example. I don't know the detail of it. He chanted Ram Nam, and the whole of Ram Leela came into the purview of his vision. He obtained the divine vision, revelation of Ram Leela, and he wrote it in that way. He didn't know about the Leela, and then wrote it. Through the holy name of Ram, as in Ramchandra, not as in Radharaman, but Ram as in Ramachandra. Through the name, the whole, the realm of the Leela of Ramachandra came to him. So there are examples of, without knowing anything, one begins on the path of spiritual life, and the progress is there. So then what about the knowing? We obviously know so many things. We know in general, prema, love of God, is the goal of life. We know that in our knowing, Krishna is that personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know many things. We know many things about other religions even. Know where this knowing comes in. So it must be all right to also know, to want knowledge. Yes, that is also acceptable. But that must come in a particular way. Knowledge which we attempt ourself, which is our doing, so to speak, even about God, that will be limited. That will be ascending. We are trying to gain knowledge of Him. That will be limited, and that may remain completely material. To be direct about the point, I will quote you Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who said, even reading the Bhagavatam, which is recognized in transcendental circles as the most exalted transcendental literature, the most exalted scripture, even if you read that without the blessings of the higher Vaishnavas, without the blessing of your Guru, without the order of Guru and Vaishnava and Sadhu, if you just attempt it on your own doing, I will read Bhagavatam and I will get all knowledge, you will not get any proper knowledge. And what is the evidence of that? There are just hundreds and hundreds of readers, literally thousands of readers of Bhagavatam in India, and hundreds of speakers of Bhagavatam in India. But when taken to the rug, so to speak, they don't know what is Bhagavatam. Another example, Bhagavad Gita. There are many people who read Bhagavad Gita, even in this country at a university level, and then in India in philosophical level. And so many people read Bhagavad Gita, and their conclusion is there is no Krishna. Their conclusion is there is no Krishna. Krishna says, surrender to me. That means the me inside of everyone. Me means Brahman. Krishna is only another manifestation of Brahman. And they take out a whole other understanding. Not that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They preach not Krishna. Not Krishna. Now, how is it that they've taken the same book, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the same literature which we have taken, yet they come up with a completely different understanding? Is it such that we'll just come up with your own understanding, or both may be true, or what type of a situation is it? You see? Once there was this gentleman, and myself and one devotee named Rickshaws, we were traveling in the Middle East, and let me see, we were about 28, 29 years old at the time, and we were staying at this man's house, and then after some time he thought, oh, Swamiji, I wasn't a Swami, no, but he used to call me Swamiji, you say you have only been a part of this, you have only been reading Bhagavad Gita for a few years. I've been reading this book my whole life, my whole life, but I have no clear understanding. Your understanding seems so clear. You're so convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there isn't any verse that seems to trouble your mind. But me, and so many things in Bhagavad Gita just trouble my mind. I can't understand that. And then I said, well, I don't know, but we're very fortunate. Prabhupada is our teacher, he is our guru, so we have a good teacher. The student naturally learns easily. Then he became to think, well, yes, actually I've never had a teacher of Bhagavad Gita on my own. Then amongst ourselves, we marvel, because we received many kinds of comments from people whose culture, born religion, and life was about Bhagavad Gita. Yet there we were, young boys, so to speak, out in the world with our Bhagavad Gita's preaching, and we seem to have more clear understanding than they did. So we realize this is our parampara connection. So that parampara connection isn't that just you go through the process of initiation and get some beads one fine day, or just go through the formality like a bar mitzvah or a baptism. That is not what initiation is. This is not a formality. There's some formality there to mark it on the day. But just like Srila Prabhupada used to say in the beginning when the initiations were there, they were always so chaotic. They were never done properly. He used to just make sure you put the banana in the fire. But even that is also just part of the ritual. But knowing that sometimes if a banana falls out of the fire, somebody thinks, they'll burn their fingers off putting that banana back in the fire. Because that's the main thing. Banana. This is not the main thing. Shraddha is the main thing. Faith is the main thing that actually connects us. From our side, we have the faith. Shraddha is the connection that we have. And then, shiksha comes from that side. So much instruction, the direction. And shiksha comes by words and by example. So these things, two things are there. One side, the disciple has faith. The other side, the teacher gives instruction. This bonding of these two things actually makes an initiation. That shiksha means knowledge. The shiksha is knowledge of the transcendental world. It is given. It is instructed. Just like in so many fields, we have instructors. Now, Jayananda is familiar now with instructors. Sorry. Instructors. If you do not pay attention to the instructor in any field, well then, how do you expect to know anything out of that? So, spiritual activity is not any different in one sense. It's a different thing. Listening to an arms instructor, well, then you won't blow your foot off or shoot the guy next to you. Listening to a computer instructor, well, that's critical. If you don't pay really attention there, you're just lost on a screen somewhere. You don't know what to do with a mouse in your hand. Similarly, if we don't give attention to our spiritual instructors, the instruction that we're given, we'll be lost there too. We may even shoot ourselves in the foot. We may do the wrong thing. There are wrong practices. There is a wrong approach. So, from the side of coming down to us, knowledge of the higher world is good. It is good. But it will not be given in huge dosage, huge quantity. It is like vitamin C, so to speak. Vitamin C is very good. It is essential. But you don't want to eat a whole jar of vitamin C tablets. If you do, you may break out in a red rash all over your skin. It will give a bad effect. Sweet is good, but not too much sweet. As I said yesterday, too much sugar may even give you worms. Because these little creatures feed off that, amoebas and things. So too much sugar is not good. But what's life without a little sweet? What's a dinner without a little dessert, But you can't make your meal sweet. But in Ayurveda it said little sweet at the end of a meal, that's the final touch for digestion and well-being, peace of mind. Food gives us peace of mind. That's why people in anxiety overeat. Because by eating, we get some satisfaction. Of course, too much anxiety, then we can't eat at all. But usually that's due to heartbreak. Heartbreak, we cannot eat at all. And mental anxiety, we eat more. Anyway, life is a science. Everything is a science. Everything has detail. Everything has understanding. So the knowledge which we get under spiritual guidance, that will help us in our progress. Knowledge of the higher world, that knowledge will come to help us to approach the higher world. But simply knowledge for knowledge's sake, gathering on our own, may produce many of the opposite things. For example, pride. There was once a boy I traveled with, very young. So one day I was trying to remember a sloka. As you all know, I'm very poor at memorizing things. And I said, what is that sloka? Yes, I know that, he said, and he just came out with the Sanskrit. So I said, well, I know you know the Sanskrit, but do you know the meaning? The meaning means, do you know what this is all about? What this means? Can you practice this sloka? It's one thing to say your sloka. It's another thing to put it into practice. So what is real knowing? You come in and we go, oh, the house is on fire, the house is on fire, and somebody says, I know it, and I sit down, right? We say, well, I don't know where your knowledge is at, I'm getting out of here, and we escape, out the fire escape. But one who has knowledge, real knowledge of the house of the fire knows the house is on fire. That means there's going to be smoke, there's going to be heat, there's danger to life. this is the time to get out of here. But somebody says, yeah, I know it's on fire. Then we'll say, you don't actually understand. You don't know. When you know, you'll move on that. You see. You follow the examples?
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's the difference. Knowledge simply for knowledge's sake, that may produce many of the wrong things within us, pride being one of them. It is something like wanting all the keys, to be master of many keys, you see. So anyone who has run a business and somebody is asking for all the keys, that's not a good sign. You see, we experienced that. Too much devotion, the sign of a thief. We lived through this recently in India. Too much devotion, the sign of a thief. It's a saying. So too much do good, the sign of a bad person. You see, we're all there's fault in all of us. So to see a person's fault, it's an honest mark. You see, all faults hidden. You see, then that's a little. That may be an indication that something bad is behind. So that's his thing. Too much devotion is a sign of a thief. So similar in dealing with Krishna, why you want to know all these things. What is your purpose intended? For your own pratishta, your own position, you want to be the master of knowledge, you see, so that when speaking to the audience, you will be known as a learned person. Or you want to make a business out of this, you see. Previously, in India, and still there are what's called professional preachers, professional Bhagavatam disciples. They speak Bhagavatam. Our conclusion is, after meeting them at different times, they don't know what is Bhagavatam, but they're expert at speaking it. You see. And but nowadays in America, there's no. What you going to do? Become a professional Bhagavatam reciter? Nothing. But I've noticed they're professional Sankirtan devotees. They're professional Sankirtan devotees. They go out and they use a 501(c) nonprofit status, and they get permits, and they go out in various places and venues, and they collect in America and places, and they keep the money for themselves. And they give a portion of it to the temple in order to use the permit. So this is called, in my language, this is called the professional Sankirtan devotee. But such things never existed in Prabhupada's time. You went out in the name of Sankirtan to sell books, collect money, or chant the holy name. None of it was yours. Whatever you sold, whatever you collected, whatever you did, whatever you achieved out there, this was offered to Prabhupada. This was offered to the temple, you see. But now they're professional collectors. Once, this is quite common in the Christian world. There are a lot of professional preachers. They collect. Some big ones. Every once in a while there's some scene on television or the news how the ministry falls apart and someone has made it out the door with millions or something. It's constantly going on, it seems. But one day in a small way, there was a devotee. He was selling books in a parking lot, maybe 25 years back. So he used to sell packs of incense. And every 4 packs of incense, the 5th guy could get a Bhagavad Gita with his $1 pack of incense. That was the system. If you sold 4 packs of incense, which people like to buy, it was good. Then the 5th pack, you could offer a Bhagavad Gita or give it to anybody. So the devotees had this calculation how they would easily be able to sell their Bhagavad Gitas. Otherwise, they had to get $5 for that book. Something like that. You follow? So there was this black man. He was standing by the door of the store, and he was watching this one devotee, going from person to person, and he'd watch him get the donation, give him a book, or give him the incense. He was watching and watching. And then finally, that black man, he approached the devotee, and he said, "What are you?" And he had a strong southern accent. And the devotee said, "I'm a preacher." The black man looked at him and he said, "You don't look like no preacher. But by the way you talk the money out to people's pocket, I say you're a preacher." This is the standard of a preacher. That you collect the money from the people. So the professional preacher is there. There once was another man. We used to make fun of this. He happened to be a black man also, and he had his own churches through the South. And he would come in a pink Cadillac convertible, and he would have two beautiful ladies with him, and he would have gold watches and many rings and chains, and in his sermon he would say, "Now you want to be rich like me. You want to have a car, a beautiful car like me with beautiful women in the car. Now why you don't have it? Because you don't give your money to God. This is your chance. You give your money to God. He'll give you the things like He's given to me. Now we're passing the baskets now." Everybody just fill those baskets thinking in the end, but he's got the money to go over the car and the boot, lock it up, see you next month, and he drives away. So he would just talk that money. You see. Professional preachers. No, they're not really preachers. You see. It's like the word bogus guru. There is no such thing. It's just something we've said. There is no bogus guru. You see, actually, these two things don't come in the same sentence. It is or it isn't, but it's not a bogus good one. Anyway, it was something Srila Prabhupada said. No such thing. So either is or isn't. So then the knowledge. The question was about knowledge. If knowledge is our own acquisition, it will not serve to further our spiritual advancement. If knowledge comes down to us in parampara by the grace of Guru, Vaishnava, and Sadhu, then we should not turn a deaf ear to that. We should not turn a deaf ear to that. There are some that think, don't hear anything about anything higher. Don't hear anything. And that is a misunderstanding. Hear from the right source and don't demand. I think one of our friends, senior Vaishnavas, Ballabh Tirtha Maharaj from India, he's frequently asked, can you speak something about rasa? Can you speak something about rasa lila? He's continuously asked by devotees, can you tell us something, even after giving a nice lecture about the holy name and such things, which are actually very high for us, because we're so below even that. But the holy name goes to the lowest and to the highest. It comes to the lowest and takes to the highest. So even after that, people say, could you speak something higher? This is their understanding, that only Leela is higher. Can you tell us something higher? Such demand from a disciple, never any authentic thing from the higher world will come. Never. It does not come. That world doesn't come. It's like, it's time for the program, Harikatha, and the higher world just comes. It's not like that. We have a nice film of Srila Puri Maharaj at the end of a real Harikatha. It was at the end. It was right in the middle of real Harikatha. That means where the energy of that world descends to the speaker and the floodgates are open, and just listen close. The information is coming. Not that what calculated information, uncalculated experience coming down at the moment. The ultimate be here now situation. But it came just at the end of about over an hour's worth of talking. And Srila Puri Maharaj was manifesting various transcendental symptoms of ecstasy. His voice was breaking up and faltering and shaking. Sometimes he was getting very emotional. So the devotees were trying to stop him and interrupt. Because eventually the wave will subside, and he's 100 years old, and they're very concerned about his health, you see. So they see him going through this whole experience. So then devotees enter in, Guru Maharaj, and they begin to break into that, you see. And finally they broke through the shell. I've seen this happen on several times. After some persistent pushing, they break through. And then they told him, it's late, it's getting late, you've been talking a long time. So they're trying to stop him. In this one particular incident, then he stopped, and he looked, and it was quiet for it seemed like a long time. And then in Bengali he raised his head and he said, Harikatha does not come and go like a theatrical performance. And he was disturbed that they had penetrated his barriers and shaken him back to this world. He wasn't at all concerned about his health. This is health. This is eternal life. This is where I want to live forever. You want me to just stay down here. Now the disciple, he has this mixed emotion. He's torn between so many things. But the Guru, nonetheless, will give the instruction. It is not a thing that it will just come. Now is the time for ecstasy. Let's have an ecstatic kirtan, someone will say. Let's have an ecstatic kirtan. Actually, what you should say is, well, let's try. Let's try to have an ecstatic kirtan. You just can't have an ecstatic kirtan. Ecstatic kirtan might just be youth, you see. And I also add, a really sweet mellow kirtan just might be your old age. might not be the mellow of the holy name at all. There are many professional singers. They are very, very sweet, you see. It is said that Haridas Babaji, when he adopted the mala, whether it was a rag just tied in knots, that was one of his favorite. He used to just tie rags, just rip up old dhotis and tie them into knots, right? Because you've seen devotees are very into their beads, brown ones, shiny ones, dark ones, special shaped ones, everything. Oh, that's another Maya. Of course, that's better than chasing the Maya of the world in one sense, but another Maya. He just used to tie up old rags in a knot and have bumps on the rags. And he'd chant. That was one of his favorite malas. Well, when he took up the mala and took up the chanting, until he got the darshan of the holy name, he wouldn't stop chanting. He would sometimes run for a better part of a week, non-stop, day and night. Now someone will say, but Krishna is non different than his name. So, as soon as he chants the holy name, it's there. It's like, yes, but Krishna is playing hide and seek. The name is Krishna, and that's why he took up the name, you see. But within the name, Krishna is keeping himself behind a little bit in the shadows. And he may give his darshan, he may not. Now the insistence, a particular type of insistence, a particular type of hope, the devotee, I cannot live without your darshan, I cannot live without your presence. And until Krishna revealed himself, he wouldn't leave the name. And he would sometimes go days without sleep, food, or anything, taking the holy name. So then how is it someone can say, let's have an ecstatic kirtan? Well, what makes ecstatic kirtan? It is not our doing, it is his doing. If he chooses, he may come and be present in our kirtan. Or he may keep himself in the fog. Actually, we're in the fog. He may keep us in the fog, because we don't qualify for that. So again, it comes to this. Qualification is the necessity of every jiva. Adhikari. Adhikari means qualification. This should be our plainest concern. And that does not go to others. What's others' qualification? It really doesn't matter. And how can you really know? There's so much can be hidden from you. The real plain is our individual adhikari qualification. We have to hanker for self-improvement, and then knowing the process of self-improvement. This is sambandha gyan. Knowing the process of self-improvement will lead to the perfection, and naturally also. So rather than it is not that being mindless of the prayojana is the problem. It's being mindless or inattentive to the process of acquiring proper qualification, adhikari. That's the problem in the Vaishnava world. People don't know what is the proper thing to do in their present position, present condition. How to perform the practice of devotion. Like one devotee was recently asked of one of the older Sankirtan mothers in the Hare Krishna movement. I forget her name. Raghunath's mother, Jagadatri. She asked a certain traveling preacher, how do you know when your devotion, she said, how do you know when your devotion is real bhakti, or how do you know when your bhakti is real devotion? Something like that. But it was, how do you know when your devotion is really devotion? Basically what she was asked. Then he said, he gave two parts of the answer. I forget the first part. Then he jumped to the conclusion. He said, when you can take the betel nut from Radharani's mouth and put it in Krishna's mouth, then you know you have real devotion. If that person said that in my company, I'd tell, get the duct tape and wrap it around this boy's mouth. I don't want to hear him talk for a week. And stiff a bar of soap in there before you tape it up. Let him chew on that for a while. Because that is not how you know if you have devotion. The real answer is, for the older devotee, that the more genuine devotion you have in your heart, you will feel that you don't have any. But at the same time, you cannot give it up, you see. In the lower stage, a person goes, I don't have any devotion. I'm going snowboarding up at Bruntley. And they do something else. And the answer is, that's right. You don't have any devotion. You gotta, hear some other thing. You gotta understand what human life is. There's so many things you have to do to even begin devotion. But if you have devotion, you have a similar feeling as the young lad or young girl who says, I don't have any devotion. I'm not interested in doing this. You have the same feeling, but the difference is you can't stop. It's like the person that's got the bad sweet tooth. It says, I can't. I say, well, how do you say that? In other words, they know it's not good for them, or like smoking. They know it's not good for them, but they can't give it up. You see, they know this is bad. This is not good for my health. This is going to kill me, and they just keep going on. It's like that. You see, you understand the example? So, the answer is, how do you know? How does devotion, how does love show itself? It doesn't show itself, it hides itself. The more acquainted we are with it, it hides itself. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has confirmed this, Sridhar Maharaj has explained this, our Prabhupada has told this. That other answer is the Sahajiya answer. And then the answer is, well, you obviously have no devotion, so why should we listen to you talk? Because you're not able to do that anyway, are you? So why should we listen to a fool? Do you understand? Why we listen to you? If you're saying devotion means we can do such activity, then you have no devotion. Because you can't do that activity. So why should I listen to somebody about devotion who has no devotion? But if you tell me the right answer, and that answer will be, you will say, you have no devotion. But you can't give it up. You're grasping the lotus feet of your guru as your life and soul. You can't give it up. Then I will, what more you can tell me about devotion? I know you know devotion. It's like once we went to see Srila Puri Maharaj, we asked him a question about the holy name. You know what he said? He pulled his beads up and he said, I'm chanting, I think he said 70-something years, but unfortunately I cannot chant properly. And we were just like, what more can you tell us about this process? What more? It will be there. That was well. But there may have been somebody a little back thinking, guess I don't want to learn from him. He's been doing it 70 years and nothing happened. Let me go find somebody who's fired up. There was another sannyasi who was asked, how long you were chanting purely? He said, from the very beginning. Since the first day. And asking Srila Puri Maharaj at 100 years, and he's been chanting the holy name for 70 years. And he's giving us another feeling. And that feeling Mahaprabhu is given also in Shikshastakam. I have no love for Krishna, he says. Mahaprabhu says, my tears are a false show. I have no love. I don't know what is love. But one can lip service the right answer also. One can lip service the right answer. Just like, what's the difference between a Rasika and a Sahajiya? The difference is a real Rasika gets angry when he sees the higher topic being misappropriated in any place, any circumstance, by any people. He gets upset about that, you see. And that's something the Sahajiya never does. You poke a Sahajiya, you tickle them, and they always laugh. Anytime, anywhere. Or something about Radha, something about Krishna, something, they're ready. They're ready to spill the beans at any time, anywhere. And then the fools think, oh, he is so high, he cannot check himself at any time, anywhere, he spills the beans. We say, yeah, and that's what you do, you pick up beans. Only beans. Once Srila Maharaj was just asked to explain what's the hexagonal figure of Krishna's abode. And the devotee surely had in mind, like it's a hexagonal means how many sides is 6?
6.
Okay, how do we draw a 6-sided figure and Mathura's over here or Vrindavan's over here? Something like that was in their mind. Hexagonal means some geometric figure. So how does that relate to the lotus, like the lotus like this? I mean, how many petals are here and there? Something like that. Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj's realized soul, hexagonal figure is not a geometric shape to him. It's the Lord's domain, his inner abode, his dwelling place. And just hearing that, and then he said, I'm sorry, we are not allowed to go into detail to describe the Lord's intimate Leela. And then he gave a long lecture that was entitled Fools Rush In, Where Angels Fear to Tread. And later we published the book, Follow the Angels. Fools rush in, where angels fear to tread. So don't follow the fools and rush in. Follow the angels. They fear to tread there. Don't rush there. Don't try to jump there. The whole secret that was brought down to us in the line of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is, when you are qualified, irresistibly you will be taken there. You don't stand a chance. It'd be like the FBI, the ATF, the CIA, the CBI, and the KGB coming to get you all at once. You wouldn't stand a chance. So when you're qualified, the agents of that world will come down for you in such a way, you don't stand a chance to remain here in any situation unfavorable. They will capture you wholesale, right down to every atom of your existence. And then hopefully they keep you here for some time for us to marvel that such a thing is possible, before they actually take you into that transcendental world. No necessity to do anything other than become qualified. That is a secret. And Saraswati Thakur told in a simple language, those who say they are the highest, they are the lowest. Those who feel they are the lowest, actually they are the highest. This feeling is so important, the humility within.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare